We're live now.
Oh, are we?
Mic is on too, so don't say anything you don't want to say. Hello, everyone. Welcome to ECU Tiger Esports. We got Overwatch JV. They're actually playing right now, so I'm connecting to it as we speak. So, yeah. Okay, good. You can see it. Great. I've got Lane here in the house. Same with Nat, Junk Nat, Kylie.
Hi.
Okay. I project, so you can have that. I can speak. I'm loud. So, hang on. Let me. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. We are actually talking computer parts. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Now they can see you. Good job. Hello, hello. All right, what do we got going on? So this is JV. This is their second match. Currently, we have point, so we're doing points. We've got the first point. We've got the current. We got the objective right now, so it's at 78%. Doing pretty good. How do I see scoreboard?
Is tab not doing it?
New. In spectator, it's a different key. Please hold.
How do you look at the scoreboard in spectator?
Man, we're so professionals here. Spectator option menu B. Nope, not that one. We'll get it, guys. We'll get it.
I'm never in spectator mode.
Toggle pause. Done that. Dun, dun, dun. This music's great though. Let me turn it off. That's what happens when you're a little late like I was to the party. It's alright. Mute tab. There we go. Alright. We're just going to go with it. And we're going to turn it off. Okay, sweet. Y'all tell me if that's too loud or not on stream for the audio of the game. Well, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Terrible. Happy to be here. Well, it's Valentine's Day. My wife made some ribs. They were pretty good, so that was awesome. Enjoyed those a lot. They were super good. She put it in the crock pot and put the barbecue sauce in there with it all day. So it's super good. Super good.
When do we get ribs?
You have to ask her. I don't know me. All right, we got the point back. We lost it there for just a second, and we have it back now. We're watching Slug Ganglion, the legend Chance. Deadeye. Look at this ulting. Oh, wasn't really needed.
It's fine. It's not rivals. It doesn't go over.
Nope. Nice job. So the JV team takes the first win, the first round.
Play of the game.
Oh yeah, Chance with the play of the game.
I'm gonna grab my phone real quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah, nice high noon. Look at that. Nice job. Good stuff. Yeah, so tonight we've got JV is playing. I'll get you the school name here in just a second, and then varsity starts at 7. So we'll be back to back tonight. It'll be pretty fast, which is great. And so as soon as JV is done, we will be switching right over to varsity. So it'll be a quick and good broadcast today. They're setting up the second map, so it'll be a little bit of a pause. So we'll just kind of come in here. We'll be looking here for a second. It's been pretty exciting for Overwatch. Past couple days, been some announcements made. There's gonna be some changes to the game. How are you feeling about that?
I saw a few things. There was something that I saw, I'm going to assume was an edit, I think. It looked like they were, like, gun add-on perks, not just the, like, Junkrat. I know they have some perks now, but there was, like, gun mods and stuff. So I'm assuming that was an edit. I hope it is, because if they start adding a whole bunch of stuff, my brain smooth at no work.
Your smooth brain, Kylie over here. Yes, has not evolved. Has not. That's funny. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about weapon mods. For sure, the perks. We'll talk about some of the perks today. We'll definitely do that. I cannot get this.
Pull up your game audio. Yeah.
Just we got some technical challenges tonight. As if you cannot tell, and we're just rolling with the punches, so we're good. We're all good.
I called Elias, no response.
That's fine. Elias will be here. He'll be here. He'll be here at 7. Yeah,
He'll come running in.
he's good. Okay, so JV is playing York University. That's who they're playing right now. So where the heck is York University? I'm gonna guess New York, but it's probably not. It's probably somewhere else. York University is in
Canada.
Canada. They're in Canada land. They live on America's hat. That's great. Cool. Yeah, they're from Toronto area. Very nice. If you want to see what I'm doing, what I do a lot, if anytime I have the opportunity to do this, I try. So I pull up the other school's page and I look to see if they have anything about esports on here. So far, not a single site has had esports on the homepage, which is fine, I guess. Not fine. But then I also go to search for it to see if they have a web page for it, for esports. So this is not a good example. I mean, I typed in esports and there's not really anything. So that's not good. So yeah, they gotta fix that. It looks like they posted some articles about esports, but not
Theirs.
Yeah, not like their program.
That was also the last one, unless you turn the page, it was 2019.
Oh yeah, these are 2017, 2019. That's, I mean, yeah. And then I always just reference, like, I'm just using us as an example. Okay, we are on the homepage. You just have to move your mouse here to see it. And then if you type in esports in this thing, it takes you straight to our website, like straight to our page. And I manage this, so like all this stuff is, we edit that.
I've clicked that button before.
Yeah. If you ever need to reach out to me and you ever want to schedule a tour, talk to me, whatever, it's a great way to reach out. All right. Looks like they're still picking map. It's just still picking map. Let's see. I wanted to look at, there was a really good web page that had all of the perks, so we can look at that. I think it's this one. Yeah. Okay. So there's been going to be a lot of changes with Overwatch that are coming out. I believe it's in 4 days. Is that right? Is the season reset in 4 days?
I think so.
I think it's like 3 or 4 days. And just as a segue and like a tangent, I often will say that the esport players are the most flexible athletes that exist. And I stand by that very firmly. And part of the reason why I do is in the traditional sports world, the rules don't change all that much, like ever. Like they don't change. They've been using the same rule book for like 50 years. So, but our rules and our games change dramatically, between, even in mid-season, this is changing.
We have to take all this stuff and learn it before very soon.
basically before your next competition match, which would be that Friday. And it would be like if you went to the football field and widened it and changed the yardage without telling them, and then they suddenly showed up and is there. Or if you added a 4-point shot in basketball. I mean, that's such a dramatic change to the game that would have huge impacts on it. So, huge. But we have to deal with that in esports. We have to, have massive changes and overhauls that we deal with in the middle of the season, which is great. And this is part of it. This is the perks. So you've read through these. Are there any that you're excited about?
You think I know about the other characters? You're funny. I know Junkrat.
Junkrat.
I only know the ones they showed on the video.
Yeah, this is the whole thing. So Junkrat. So each hero or character is going to get 2 minor perks and then 2 major perks they get to pick
Just
from.
move your camera to the other side.
Oh, yeah,
during that.
you're right.
It's taken up.
Yeah, you're right. Look at that.
Big brain.
Teamwork.
Big smooth brain, but still big brain.
Smooth brain, but big brain. Very good. So each character is going to get 2 minor perks and 2 major perks. They have to pick a minor perk and then a major perk as the match progresses. So we'll see how that goes. I have no clue what that's going to look like. And so yeah, Junkrat. Tell us about Junkrat. What are you excited about?
Maybe the tire. That's it.
Yeah.
All the other stuff is gonna mess up my aim.
The boost. So one
Yeah.
of the abilities says during the rip tire, you can use left shift to gain a quick speed of boost, but it also reduces the damage.
Which it's still good for the squishies.
Yep.
Squishy babies. It doesn't kill most tanks anyway, as is.
I don't think it kills any full health tank.
Yeah, especially if they're healthy.
Used to. Overwatch 1, kill all of them.
Just
Bring that back. Give me back
it
my
nuke?
tire.
the nuke tire.
I had one Junkrat versus 5 Reinhardts and all 5 of them.
Hey, Dr.
Nice.
Joe.
Overwatch Classic.
Forget Nuketown. It's Nuke Tire now.
30% chance of precipitation.
All right, we're in it. There was a swap on JV. Looks like Caden, Big Bowler, came in. So he's in playing as tank this round. Picked Ramatra to start with, which is awesome. And let me move our faces back. Now that we're back. There we go, faces. Great. Perfect. We're here. Awesome. This is, what, push? Is that what this is? Hybrid. This is the car. I missed the...
It's the one where they have to capture and then
Yeah.
push it all the way.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Rivals, so this is the Venom mission, or I guess the Spider-Verse mission or whatever.
Fast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There is the one that's it's the statue of whatever.
Fast Black Panthers. Oh, God.
Well, just some poking going on so far. The enemy team's taking a high position here, which is pretty typical. They pick Orisa as their tank.
They also have a rat.
Yep, here comes Orisa. And Caden's in a bad spot here. There he's out in public now. And he gets down. Oofed. What happens? Looks like enemy's taking this pretty quickly. It's our Symmetra and our support. Now the enemy's got the cart, so they hit the first point. So now they have the cart, they have to push it all the way through. They've got a couple of waypoints, there's 2 of them on this map that they have to get to actually earn points. So technically they've earned 1 point, they earn another 2 points if they get all the way to the end for each of the objectives. And our goal right now is just to stop them, to get them to stop moving the cart. You can see our support back here behind, just kind of healing.
She's out of heal now, so she has to damage to get it back.
This is bloody Stephanie. Man, they're getting kicked off. Opponents are playing more, it looks like more of a poke build, as far as I can see. Oh, there we go, now tab works now. Yeah.
Wonder if they had you in something different before.
Maybe. We're regrouping, for sure. See if there's any changes on our side. Are we matching? Yeah, it looks like Crispy's matching on DPS. That chick's name is escaping my head. The railgun lady.
Sojourn.
Sojourn, yeah. Ooh, buddy. Used her ult. Actually a good... Oh, that's close. Yeah, her ult turns into a beam. She's healing and doing damage at the same time. Wasn't enough to keep the tank alive. It was a good effort, though. I liked it. Very aggressive. You guys are so quiet.
I was about to type that out and be like, hey, mouse keys.
You do it. You do it. You guys are the experts.
I can't reach way over here.
You want to switch? Switch spots. Listen,
I got little arms I can't reach.
Yeah, listen, I just do my bestest over here, okay?
Ew. Retractable arms.
Yeah.
We really don't know. But yeah, here. No,
Give me the
Here, we'll
mouse.
switch.
Oh, we'll switch. I'll switch.
We'll switch. It's fine.
Cool. I'm gonna be in the front and center.
That's right.
Oh wow.
You're the expert, and I'll put this thing over here with you.
Oh boy.
You are the caster. The only
Sorry, this
one.
is not my job.
No, you're doing great. What's happening?
It's a short holding.
Yep. All good. So I actually laughed at Overwatch's patch notes for the new upcoming stuff because they were very proud to add third-person mode. Made me laugh a little bit.
Oh yeah, to where it's like this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was only for Stadium or something.
I mean, they're still proud of adding it, so we'll see which one it goes in. I think I did read something about it only being in that new game mode Stadium, so we'll see.
Third person was always allowed you to use it to could be easily exploited for a first person based game.
Yeah. Yep. Can we do predictions with the channel points? Yes. Absolutely.
I don't know how to set that out.
I think I can do it from my game and my phone. I think I can do it from my phone. Alright. Each.
Is there anything put in the top corner? Like in this top corner, do you think? I'm gonna move.
You're spectating. You can also see right there.
Okay, I'm gonna adjust the camera because I don't know why y'all's does that, but it does. You have it locked. Oh, never mind. I guess I'm not going to.
Ah, here it is.
I'll leave it there, though.
What are we doing a poll for? Who will win this
wins?
round?
Yeah.
I'll be able to add channel points in there, so.
One of them just takes it.
Yeah, there was two. Yeah.
Okay, you want prediction?
Because we had that last. Everybody lost their channel points, but then Jesse's like,
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was so funny. I hate to say it, but that was so funny. Jesse was so upset.
Oh, I looked away. I missed chance of her.
Ah, Mr. Good Old by chance. You're being distracted by me. Sorry.
Looks like they just clean it up.
Sorry. How do I get to my widgets? That's what I need to figure out on this. Screen manager,
The widget I know is
weather app.
Oh, I have a bunch on my phone. I don't know.
I do have one for the Chrome dinosaur game. Where we don't have a connection.
I have remove widgets in the dial. Ah.
Lame.
Ah,
You see,
I got it. I found it. Woo.
I am a streamer, not a commentator.
Oh, shit.
My streaming is saying the callouts in the game with the people.
What is it? We're playing against, who is it again? It was York University?
Yes.
You.
Tyler Dixon, there he is.
Who will win game 2 of the series? We'll go ahead and do that for 5 minutes.
I'd say
Okay,
shorter.
it's there.
It's already almost over.
That's fine. It ain't over.
Alright, 25
I was
seconds.
gonna say, because if they get a stop here and then we complete the thing, then we a win.
They have
I meant
one
like
more
make the
fight.
cutoff time shorter because by the time 5 minutes, the next game's gonna be already almost over, and that'll be an
That's
easy.
fair. But they're actually on cue with this though. They're on time with what's on the video.
Are they?
I think. So we'll see.
Sure.
We'll do it. We'll test it out. We'll see what happens.
We'll see how it goes. Y'all might get 3 points.
Yeah.
Need to
Yep.
figure out how to adjust the camera.
Chance has got his ult
size.
again.
Nice, they held it off.
They did good. Nice job. Nice job, JV. Good job. That was good. Really good.
Started off really rough, but they pulled it together at that last point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they
Is this
definitely
for
did.
the match or the whole round?
For the match, yeah. So now
There
they'll
you
switch
go.
sides, and then we have the opportunity to win.
Yeah, for this match too here, this map,
Mm-hmm.
not the entirety of our games tonight.
Yeah, they're just on when we were talking about perks, technically. So they're a ways behind.
Yeah. No, that was when I was messing with the camera.
Oh,
Because I just saw the camera change size. I didn't realize y'all had it, like, locked into a specific shape. I was gonna stretch it.
That's how it works by default.
Yeah, I don't use OBS. I don't know how to change all that, so I'm just leaving it.
yeah.
So I was
Oh,
gonna
typical.
stretch it so you could,
Nah.
without having to, like,
I'm not
I know. I there is a way to set that all. I haven't figured out
I had
how
to
to set
stop
that all, but
using
it's-
Streamlabs because it wouldn't pick up Counter-Strike. Super annoying.
whenever it does that for me, I just have it streamed that monitor. But I also have,
It just wouldn't pick it up, and it was like a known issue, so I had to swap back over to OBS. Because I like Streamlabs for its simplicity,
His
but
little
OBS
dance
just allowed
dance.
me to do more things.
doing his little dance.
Typical Caden. Big bowler going on. We got any points yet? Nope, no points being used yet. So we'll see. Oh, there we go. There's some points coming through now.
See how long they walk. Oh, I was hoping they were gonna walk out of spawn doing that.
Someone put 100 points on ECU. Let's go.
Yo, ECU better be getting big time points.
Yeah. Now we got 500 points on ECU. Wow, that's a lot. All right, we're going
Someone's
good.
got to bet against.
I was gonna say someone's got to take that bet against us. Hopefully, there's somebody from YU in here.
I'll do it and get major points.
You get channel points by just being part of the stream, hanging out. I think commenting or leaving messages also does get you some channel points. I think we can distribute them as well. We're on offense now. We're trying to take the point. So far, we got wiped on our first attempt, so they're regrouping.
Only one person is. There it goes. There's more on that side now.
Awesome. Who will win this round? Got Crispy on Reaper.
Going
You
on
sneaky,
plane.
sneaky.
A little bit of a teleport. Gonna get down that Sojourn. Sojourn slides away.
Okay, move to Sojourn off the
Get that
point.
Life Weaver though, possibly.
Oof, almost.
Oh.
The pedal didn't pedal.
I was gonna say, it looked like he was trying to go up that pedal.
Winston's trying to make some space for the team. Got
Yep.
trapped.
So he knows how to. I don't know how to commentate.
Reaper
Oh,
went
I'm
up
a gamer.
top.
Winston's going down. Oh,
He's still alive. He's still there. Dropped his bubble.
it's close.
Okay, okay. And then, oh,
Reaper
nice.
cleaning up while Winston's distracting.
Well,
Let's
Crispy,
go.
yeah, Crispy went up top while he was distracting bottom, and then Reaper joined him in the
Nice.
mid. So nice job.
Cleaned house, captured point. Let's go.
Good job. Poll is at 1,000 ECU, 500 for YU.
You said someone had to bet against them. So
Well, if they win, then you win all of the points.
good. I have 700
Diving.
points.
Trying to get that jump grab.
Yep.
These mobile characters can just kind of jump away, unfortunately. But he's good for a distraction right now.
Yeah. Mercy
They're getting,
joined in.
they're getting free ground right now.
Explain that. Free ground. What does that mean?
So they're up there distracting them around the corner. So instead of the defense stopping the cart, they're trying to stop Winston, which is letting them just push the cart for free. Unfortunately, they hopped off cart for a moment, but they're back to pushing it.
Winston just got his ult too, so we should see him drop in and use it pretty quick. Or he may save it. He might save it for.
Now Winston can be super aggressive, and right before he dies, he can press Q to pop his ultimate, get his health back, and then just knock everybody around.
Yep, like with a good pull on the enemy.
This Orisa is going down, hopefully.
Yeah, that was such a nice.
Down
Orisa's
goes
down.
their tank. Our Reaper died and got rezzed.
Yep.
Just cleaning it up now. Should get second point, no problem.
That's Juno. Bye, Juno.
Man, I'm gonna lose my fucking points.
Yeah. Well, we know who the YU fan in the room is.
I am not a
Jeez.
traitor.
See
Do
how
not.
it is.
I am no Benedict Arnold. Wait, I'm fast.
Reaper's almost got to that Sojourn. Sojourn backed off. Oh, Monkey's jumping in.
Same thing. I mean, they're just running the same play, which is
Straight
working.
back.
Oh, Caden took a little bit too much damage there, or did he survive? I don't know. Flipped away. Yeah, he's good. We got 2 ults. Should see Deadeye happen. Oof. A lot of damage there.
Just trying to make some space. Right now they're going to kill that Orisa, hopefully.
Oh, he's
Life
shot.
Weaver threw out a streak. Oh, there, down goes our Winston.
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna go for the res.
Fortunately, it looks like we're going to have to back up and regroup.
But look how much progress we made, and we still have 4 minutes. So that's the other thing
Still
about this
stalling.
this mode in particular is if you get the point really early and really fast, it adds minutes to your timer. So right now we have 4 minutes to get this to that, and we don't have that much to go. So we just need a good team wipe, and we'll be good.
Reaper currently in their backline, deep in the enemy territory, distracting them. Down goes Reaper. Oh, Cassidy's low. Winston's in Primal Ape.
Oh, Reaper got res.
Reaper is back.
Here comes the Junkrat tire. Oh, it went straight for the Reaper.
Down goes Reaper again.
But again, good distraction on that side. They're pulling their people, pulling the enemy to the back line, which is letting us actually move the objective slowly, which is working great. We're about to win. Yep, and that's it right there, folks.
Anytime you get the enemy tank down, you can pretty much just walk through the enemy team.
Let's go. Good job. GG's.
Great job.
My points.
My poor points. Play the game going to Buddy.
It's always the Moiras. Moiras always get.
Nice. Good ult. That's the thing. Like, it can go through so many people. You get a ton of points if you hit multiple people with that ult. That's why it gets so many points.
Yeah.
Or I guess what do you call them? Like, I don't know, play the game points. There's a certain name for them, like highlight points or something.
Yeah, but it's half as many if you're using alt.
Mm.
That's what I read on the Reddit. It was like, say you get 1 point for a kill, you get half a point if you killed them with an alt.
I guess with her though, because she can hit so many people with that beam, that the points just kind of rack up, and that way, that's why she's getting so much.
She's also got that little orb.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Very true. Games are going well. We've actually won. This is two. This is game 3. So we won game 1. We won game 2. So we're moving on to game 3. If we win this one, then ECU actually wins the whole series against YU. Playing York University. They're out of Canada, out of Toronto, out of Canadian land.
Canadian. Why do you say Canada?
Canada.
Is it supposed to be Canadian? I just don't
No.
know. Or
It's
you
just a joke. No,
Oh, okay.
total joke. I say America's hat and America's boot for Canada and Mexico.
In Hi, I'm a Weeb. There's an anime I used to watch when I was little. It's called
Did you say
Hitalia.
weeb? Do you say I'm a weeb?
Yep. I'm a weeb. But there's one, it's called Hitalia, and it's all the countries like personified. So like America is this dirty blonde, blue-eyed guy named Alfred. He wears a bomber jacket, it's all about Coke and burgers. But Canada is his brother in this.
Nice.
And he's always like, "What's up, Canada?" He always calls him Canada, and I wasn't sure if you were doing it for that or if I
Maybe,
was
I
just
don't-
dumb and just didn't know that's actually how it's supposed to be pronounced.
I don't know. Yeah, I've done that for a while. So maybe. That sounds familiar though. My wife watches a lot of, or she did watch a lot of anime. She doesn't very much anymore.
Should watch her if she's ever seen. Ask her if she's ever seen Hitalia.
She's in.
Have you ever seen Hitalia?
Yeah.
Is she where you got Canada from, or?
I don't know. I really don't know, to be honest. I really don't know.
I just noticed their name is Friar Tuck. This whole time I was reading it as Fire Truck.
Friar Tuck.
It's like Robin Hood.
Looks like the swap was we're putting Crispy on tank. So Alex, who was playing Reaper, is going tank. And then Caden Big Bowler's going DPS. And they're still sorting out the game and map and all that stuff, so it should be...
Do we change sides now? Is that a thing? He just said the same side as what we are.
Well, you can swap sides, but for something like this and control, it doesn't matter. So he just said whatever we're at right now is what they're going to keep.
Oh, okay.
Normally, we don't even decide which side we're going to start on because it doesn't really matter. Sometimes on like hybrid or escort, we'll decide to do attack first or defense first.
Yep.
But for these, they're just mirrored sides. Which is funny because I always play one side. Every 15 games, I'll get the other side and it'll feel very wrong.
You're on the wrong side of the fence this time.
Well, yeah, imagine Lucio rollouts.
The amount of times I take a wrong turn on this in Marvel Rivals because I expect to be on the other side is really, really awful.
Yeah, I come out of here trying to jump along the walls and then all of a sudden I'm flying into air. I'm like, huh? Where's my wall?
Yeah. Ooh, looks like somebody's been hitting this corner.
Yeah, our lab's getting beat up a little bit.
Yikes.
See, look who's shown. Look who's here. I told you. They were like, Elias ain't gonna be here. I said, give Elias time. He'll be fine.
I said 650.
It's 6:36. He
6:36.
beat your expectations.
If you hadn't checked the messages, you would have been here at 650.
I think I did here like 6:40 or 6:30 something.
Yeah.
Well
Typical.
I will give you your spot.
You're leaving now? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for hanging out.
I'm sure Lane wants us to warm up or something.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys got actual match stuff going on, you know.
Oh yeah.
What's up, Elias?
Not much. Yeah, I had no idea this was going on at 6:30. The guys started at 6.
Yeah. They did a reschedule, and that's on me. I didn't text you and tell you right away when it happened.
No
But
idea.
it's all good. No, we're up. So JV's playing. They are actually up 2 games. So this is the 3rd game. If we win this, then we win the series. We're playing York University out of Canada. They're out of Toronto. So we're playing some Canadians.
Fascinating. And this is NECC?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool,
NECC.
It's like, hey, Yeti's here watching. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Get support from the Rocket League team. Sick.
Love it. And also Connor from League of Legends from last semester.
Yeah. Well, he tunes in every once in a while. I see his name pop up.
That's good. Mama Lisa. Not sure who's.
That's Mama Lisa is Kylie's mom.
Ah, nice. Hello. Kylie's mom. Is that your official title? Is that your preferred title? Is Kylie's mom?
I think Mama is it Mom Lisal? Because it's Lisa, then there's an L.
Yeah.
Like Lisa.
Well, we're just not, just talking about that. But honestly, JV had a struggle the first 2 team fights. This 3rd team fight, they actually came out and did really good and killed the enemy team. So now we have the robot pushing it back. So we're in control at this point, and we did a good job too of staggering the deaths on the opponent's side, which is really good.
Hatalia, what is that?
Hatalia. So that's what the manga or anime that Kylie was talking about.
Manga anime with people that are embodiments of countries.
Enemy spotted.
Is it the comedy? Okay, I've heard of that. I've
They have,
never.
like 5-minute episodes or something.
Yeah. Okay, I've heard of that. I've never actually watched any of it. Here, we're gonna just keep watching Kyoto the whole time.
Nope, you switch, yeah. Go switch. There we go, there's Doom. This is, Alex playing his Doomfist. Nice ult, just about died.
Oh!
Super good.
Takes out the Sojourn and looks like he almost finishes off. There goes, or finishes off the
Nice.
Orisa. That is insane gameplay.
Love it. Do you want to switch?
Yeah.
There we go. See? See, look at this. I'm always on this side now. This is great.
It's going support, tank, damage. Whenever you're swapping, by the way.
Why?
That's what it's doing.
That
So
is-
you get your damage just.
Okay, wacky.
Awesome. Yeah, you're in control. Yeah,
Cool.
You are the captain now. No, that's great. If I don't have to control things, that's better. I always mess up.
Fair. You're
All
right.
right.
You're right. You literally just told me, and I messed it up already.
So funny.
Looks like the Reinhardt killed Tracer, and Big Bowler is.
Ooh.
Okay, well, he looks like he got his hack off, but got murdered in the process, so.
Yep. So Caden and I were talking about specifically the changes that are going to be coming. That's going to really affect some of these champions. And Sojourn's a good example of that. I think are they still playing Sojourn on the opponent's side? Yeah, they are. Yeah, they've been running Sojourn, I think, the whole time.
Say Neurodiver?
Neural Diver?
That's kind of a sick name, actually.
Neuro Diver, yeah.
You ever read Neuromancer?
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Actually, yes.
I just got done reading that like last month.
Nice.
No, that's a great book. Did you ever read any of the sequels?
No, I don't think so. And I don't think I actually finished that book. To be honest
Really?
with you. That one and there was a Snow Crash. There's two. That one and Snow Crash are just, for some reason, I never finished them.
I've never heard of Snow Crash.
There's a character that
Oh.
Maybe.
Oh,
Nice
wow.
cleanup by
Yeah.
us. Sheesh.
It counted as an assist, but it looks like Sombra did a decent chunk of damage to not 1, 2, or 3 characters, but 4 of them as they all died.
Sombra's one that with the new perks is going to be interesting. One of her perks is she can turn her little hack into a heal. So she can actually then hack the enemies but then heal her allies. So it's like, it kind of goes back to that. They did that one game mode where everybody was like alternate people, and that was the thing is Sombra was a support, and then Ana was a damage dealer, so it was kind of interesting.
Is there no fall damage in this game?
Fall damage?
fall damage.
There's no. Okay.
They're also giving Ana a headshot.
Oh yeah, the crit.
Oh,
I was
really?
Yeah.
joking about it the other day. I was like, let's just give Ana a
Ooh,
headshot.
Shatter being used right there. He was like, I'm pissed off he's using that. I feel like that was a bit of a emotional ult, to be honest, but it's kind of hard when they're pushed back this far.
Such a good thing May can't freeze anymore. That would have been over.
Mm-hmm. Well, May, her new thing is going to be when she uses her ice thing, she freezes everybody in a radius around her. So she can run up to people and then use her ice block and freeze a bunch of people to stick them there and get them stuck.
That's kind of cool.
Ice block?
Mhm.
It can't be like frozen.
Yeah.
I don't like stuns.
I'm telling you, it says they will freeze in place with her.
Maybe like rooted, so like still shooting stuff like Hazard, but you can't run.
We shall see.
I don't know. What if the whole idea of going from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 was reducing CC and removing that tank, right?
Yeah,
They're
that's
putting
true.
the tank back in. What if they're just putting the CC right back to
No, you're
combat
right.
that second tank
At
meta?
this point,
Absolutely.
They might.
I mean, come on. The whole point of Overwatch 2 is to introduce the PvE stuff, and that they never delivered on. So
Yeah.
I mean, they might as well just reverse everything.
We're on the verge of Overwatch 3, which is Overwatch 1.
With perks.
Oh, and it looks like Meg is
Man,
taken out.
yes.
Wow.
Man, here we're having some dialogue about the future of Blizzard and Overwatch, and we're missing out on JB just absolutely decimating.
Oh, I love it when you get a good solid Doomfish kill. You just slam it into the pavement. Talk about some practical comedy.
Yep, and we have very strong position in this match. We are over halfway done at that last point. You can see at the top there, you see that little blue arrow moving to the left. That's our robot currently.
Oh, hacking the Rhine.
Oof, but man, they got another shatter. It looks like, can't tell if there's a shatter that went off, but their Rhine killed 2 of our guys, so we backed off immediately.
No, I think that was just the.
saved them.
Mm-hmm.
So Sombra's whole role right now is more or less just chain hack the tank, shut the tank down, so the tank just gets obliterated.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, I was gonna switch over to tank
You have to have global spectate for that.
for the F keys to work.
Yep.
You're welcome, by the way. Last time we gave you global.
I appreciated it, and I
I think
definitely.
the last 2 times, NECC
Yeah.
and GDC.
I definitely appreciated it.
It does make it better.
Oh, it makes it infinitely better.
Doomfist has got his ooh, nice Maywall to block that charge by Doomfist. Doomfist using his ult right on top of people. Nice.
No.
Phase out of it.
Well, not only was it a good way to get out of the mail, also it just obliterated.
Ooh, shatter right in the face. Ouch.
Huh.
But Doomfist was right there. He's good. He's fine.
It looks like Crispy was kind of just expected to die there. As you notice,
yeah.
he stayed still for like a second and then looked
Yeah.
around.
It's like, I'm still
Huh.
alive.
I'm still standing.
Now they did push the robot back, and as you can see, the robot moves very quickly. If it's not pushing the barrier, it actually moves pretty fast. So that's why they were able to get the robot that far back to where we were. But we've already got it right back to.
Oh man.
He said nope.
Yeah, Doom trying to get some good vantage on that angle there, but the Junkrat just kind of meeting him. He said, "I'm out of here." Can't out DPS the Junkrat, unfortunately. Actually, probably just gonna push him off the bridge. But...
Oh yeah, there we go.
And there we go.
Sees that Junkrat low and dives right into the alley there.
I don't think he expected to be grabbed by that.
Yeah.
I know. But hey, at least it kind of made the Rhino overextend just a little bit. And he's right back in. It didn't seem like it mattered.
Caden not able to get the hack off on either the support or the Rhine.
Looks like Slug has his ult up.
Oof.
Oh, it's taken out by a... huh, Ryan's a bit of a sniper there, it looks like.
Yeah, interesting choice too for Slug to be on Tracer. I don't think I've seen much Tracer play, but it's good. It's really good. I like seeing Chance expand his range, try different characters, and Tracer's great. So it's really good.
Yeah, no, we see... I'm pretty sure Luke play Tracer on the Divarsity team, but
Yes.
you're right. Normally we have Slug play a lot of Cassidy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, so it's good to see.
Oh, he got the bomb off, but it didn't seem like
Nice.
it did a whole lot.
Yeah, close butts. You see her. I mean, come on. Look at that.
Just
like,
bullying the Ryan.
yeah, just literally just like elbow to elbow with Ryan, like dancing around him, shooting him in the hips. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, it's kind of a good reason why Tracer's the lowest HP in the whole game, just because
Yeah.
shenanigans like that.
Yeah.
Even in the high-level gameplay, just almost impossible to hit him.
Yep. Tracer's new perks are going to be interesting too. One of them is where she will actually gain an like whenever she does use recall, she'll gain twice as much health temporarily to like give her a little bit of sustain. So I'm interested to see if people take that one.
All right, looks like he's going right on the Juno ult.
Oof. Yeah, that was tough. Here he comes.
Oh, he tried
Man,
to kind of
okay.
counter the pin, but I don't think he knows that doesn't work.
Yep.
Okay. Both our supports are pretty far away. Oh. Nice.
Okay, we're in overtime right now. We currently are winning only because we pushed the robot significantly farther than the enemy. So our goal right now is to get it to stop and get them to not be around the robot for a few seconds. You see Doom really trying hard to take a bunch of damage. He's punching, did really good, killing that Moira. He's still sticking with Ryan,
All he has to
dancing
do-
around him and gets it. Nice.
Yeah, it's kill that Ryan. It's game over.
Yeah, that's it. Good job.
Match 3 for
GG's ECU.
Central.
There we go. Nice job. GG's chat. Slug hitting him.
Kylie's the youngest of 4, so I'm always mom to everyone. Wow.
Hey, there we go. Slug with the play of the game as Tracer. Oh, yeah, the bomb.
Nice bomb on the Juno.
Yep.
Takes out the enemy Kiriko. Oh, okay. Finish. Triple kill. Nice.
Nice. Good job. Way to go. All right. Overwatch JV won their series.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty sure. Just make sure. I'm just looking over to make sure. Yeah. Yep. They're. I think they're celebrating. Good. 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 Good.
Oh, yeah. All right,
Um,
so this was Yorktown. Who is the varsity going up against?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see, and then we'll get a poll going to see if you guys want to vote on who you think will win. There it is. There it is. Who you think will win? Schedule. Nice work. It's always nice to start the evening off with a win. They are currently checking in. They're playing SWASU. So, so we're playing Southwest Oklahoma State University.
Okay, so when they said that they were playing us next, it wasn't part of the GAC. It was part of
Yes.
the NECC.
Right, right.
That's kind of cool. Okay.
Yep. So they're checking in now. JV's done. We have probably about 10 minutes between matches, so we will actually, unless you want to sit and chat, I figure we could take an intermission.
Yeah, sure.
Take an intermission. All right, we'll be back in about 10 minutes or so. So keep it tuned out. We'll put some music on, and you'll hear us back in a few minutes.
Alrighty. Boop, I'm back. Had to change his profile picture to what they called a mewing one. So he had Farah, Zarya, Alari, and Bridget, or Brigitte, or however you want to pronounce it. Is it Bridget or Brigitte? I've heard someone say Brigitte once, and that's always stuck with me. Like, I used to play a lot of Rainbow Six Siege, and one of the characters is named Kaid, and for some reason, I've always had it stuck in my head. His name is Kaid, which I think is like the technically correct pronunciation because he's supposed to be like Arabic. So, because I mean, hell, I watched Lost. That guy's name's Saeed. You know, the spelling is a little different, but Kaid, who knows? So Brigitte, whatever. Why is the game audio so low? Let's put you at 65. 60 works. All right, you're a little louder. I can just change how loud the desktop audio is in comparison to me over here. So, Pokemon Emerald speedrun win. Oh hell yeah! Let's see if I can. Can I get Pokemon on this? Oh man, no. So it looks like the only Pokemons I can play are Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Red, and Pokemon Snap. I don't know what that is, but I'll play Pokemon Blue or Red. Yeah. I don't know how to do polls, but yeah. Who wants to be Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Red? Vote. Because I literally don't know the difference between the two. And they both have the exact same ratings. That being said, Pokemon Red has significantly more comments and reviews. So I guess Pokemon Red's the more popular one, but I'll leave it up to you guys if anyone's actually going to care that much. Or I can play Pokemon Snap, whatever this is. Beats of me, man. Not much. How are you? Bonk. Hell yeah.
Easy 3-0.
Yeah, easy 3-0. I was only here for the last one because no one really told me that it was you guys started at 6. So I get a freaking text from Lang going like, "Hey, they started at 6, by the way. I don't think anyone told you. It's like 6:30 by the time I read it." I'm like, nope. No one said anything. So I drove over here as fast as I could. I had to get dressed and everything. So yeah.
That's unfortunate.
But I got to see your guys' push game, and yeah, it looked pretty effortless. Are you guys just throwing around? You're Chris Whiffs, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I figured. What's your actual name?
Alex.
Alex? Okay.
Yeah, there's 2 Alexes. One on the varsity, one on the junior varsity.
Alex G. Alex
I was on the
O.
varsity last semester.
Yeah, they
Okay.
swapped spots.
And I decided to come down because I didn't really like Overwatch.
Fair enough. Okay, that makes sense that you guys just swapped and you're both named Alex. Because I was getting confused and I didn't know why. That makes sense now. Okay, it makes perfect sense. Because yeah, that's Mex107's. His name's Alex. Are you also Mexican? All right. Would you look at that? Perfect parody.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, equivalent exchange right there.
Is this Muffin guy in our Discord? I feel like he's the dude who's posting his clips on the Overwatch 2.
Who?
Maniac Muffin.
Wait. Let me.
No. So we got Maniac.
Okay. Is he from? Where was he from?
He's the
Swansea?
Maniac League of Legends. So he was our jungler last semester for League of Legends.
Oh,
Yeah, but I think he went to like OSU for something. So
I see.
he has surpassed us, lowly D2 individuals. Yeah, I guess I changed Cody's profile picture to what they called the mewing profile
That
picture.
viewing?
Yeah. No, so apparently it's under progression, right? And it's
Yeah.
filters, all heroes. Oh wait. Okay, I guess I have to go all the way down. Oh, not all the way down. Dang. Whoopsies.
Maybe.
Where'd it go?
No, Cody's coming back.
Yeah, he only has like.
Just come from my belongings.
Okay.
Enjoy.
Yeah, you just passed him.
Did I pass him?
Yeah.
I'm scrolling too fast. Oh, you're right.
Right
Okay.
there, right there.
He only has Alari, or that's
Zarya?
Yeah, Zarya, Alari,
Farah.
Farah, and Bridget,
And
that's
Ash.
and Ash. Yeah, Ash is over here. That's it. So I'm like, huh? All women. Dude has a type when he plays video games, I guess.
Go up again. Hold on. Was it really? I didn't even notice they're all women.
Yeah.
They are all women.
Yeah, they're all women.
They can't blame them.
I can make him Ukrainian. Oh, there's all flags. Some of these are kind of cool, but how do you like unlock them? Oh, these are all seasons. These are
They're
okay, season
seasons.
rewards. And
And some of them you can't even unlock anymore.
oh, really? That's
yeah,
cool.
they were just like way in the past. And I think Overwatch won.
That's fair. Agender, aromantic, asexual, bisexual, gay. I thought gay was the rainbow. They changed it on? I guess I
didn't
should
even know there was a gay one.
yeah, neither did I.
Why
And
is
it's
it
like
just, why is it not just the regular?
I thought
all of them.
no, I could have swore that this was just I guess that's the progress gay and this is the intersex. Okay. Gender fluid, intersex, lesbian. They got their own flags too. Oh, okay. So I guess gays,
Oh,
dudes,
okay.
lesbians.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that makes
Men
sense.
and-
Makes sense.
men and women.
Non-binary, pansexual. Is that just like the Romanian flag? Okay. Progress, pride, intersex, inclusive progress flag, and trans flag. Okay, I think my favorite like addition that they made to the gay flag is that the rainbow is the typical LGBT flag. Then they add the trans thing, and then they add the black and the brown to indicate like just minorities in general. So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, no, I'm just like
I thought it was for something else.
no, I always thought it was funny. I'm just like, okay, I get the whole sexuality thing. It's just black and brown dudes. that's all that is. I didn't think they really wanted to be part of this, but hey, there they are. And we are starting game one.
Comfortable down there?
Yep, sure am.
Oh shit! Are you? Oh, you're right there. Look at that. Your head's like right in between us. Oh, they gave it to me. Oh, if he could looking at me, I'd thank him. All right, you guys don't give me a universal run. They do.
I think there was an incident last semester with JV that they thought they were cheating.
Yeah, I understand. There's the possibility of cheating, whatever. I have more fun this way. You think I care about your petty problems? No. All right, looks like we were starting. Let's see. No one's chosen their hero yet, so I'm just floating around this coliseum.
Yeah, they try not to like do it in the beginning because the enemy team can see for like a couple seconds what you pick. Or they just don't know what they're gonna pick yet.
I'll just stare right down. I'll just go, yeah. They'll have no idea.
You barely see anything.
Well, also, I'm on a 3-minute delay, so even if they're watching the stream.
Yeah, if they're watching the stream, it doesn't matter.
Paused? What? What's going
I don't know
on?
what's happening. Hey, that's me.
Hey, that is you. Having frame issues, 1 second. Player froze, technical difficulties. Okay. All right, a lot of Alex's, yeah. Oh no, I misclicked on the prediction. Who will win game? Oh shoot, it looks like, okay. 1 second. Predict. What? No, get out of here. Predict. Okay, get started, whatever. All right, don't worry. I'll choose ECU. Oh, I can't. Never mind.
you have the points.
What? Yeah, I don't have enough points. I own this. What do you mean I don't have enough points? This is
You got
stupid.
0 points. Or bits.
Oh, we're red.
We don't have any bits, that's why.
How many bits? I don't know, dude. 0, I guess.
Round one.
Alrighty.
Okay, we got assault on Genji. Okay, we got
We got a sick lineup here.
They did go May, so that's gonna counter.
Ooh, okay, never mind. They killed me. They had a cross map kill from Alex or Mixron. Do you call them by the real name or their gamer tag?
I change all the time. I kind of don't really have it. I'm not consistent here. I think I go by the gamer titles because I didn't know Marquand's name for a while.
Okay, Marquand completely misses the leap. He misses the leap. These guys are having trouble getting their footing. No space.
Oof, the Ryan trying to charge back, actually just kind of falling
He's
short.
in the back line. We lost our Lucio.
Wow,
Oh, Ryan is going
aggressively
crazy.
going after lane. All right, it looks like he finishes off Lucas too. Wow, that is almost a
Tough
complete team
fight.
kill.
Oh my god, that was a team kill from the Ryan.
That is kind of goofy. See what the Ryan's
Oh,
up
no,
to.
no, I forgot the Lucio got killed by someone else. There's 4 kills from the Ryan.
No, that is crazy. Unfortunately, with now the one advantage I do have when only one team is I can check the scoreboard. I can't check the scoreboard here. Maybe I can. I just don't know how to, but I just can't.
I don't really stretch it.
Well, it's good to see damage. You know.
Good to see. I like this flank right here. Control a lot of space. If you went to Ramatra from Doom,
Interesting. Oh, I got killed immediately by the Rhine. Dang, their Rhine is kind of hard carrying them. It looks like that we might need to start counterpicking for the Rhine.
well, we counter-picked already with Ram.
Yeah, we went Ramatra. Is Ramatra a good counter against Rhine?
Yes, because he can punch through his shield.
Oh, good to know. Well, if Ryan can stay alive for more than a few seconds.
Does okay.
Ram, well, it's really hard, I think, for our team because they have a Ryan and May. They just wall up the tank just to kill the Ram.
Yeah.
That's what we did for our first game. Our first match last week. So we got
Okay.
3 picks.
Okay.
We lose the cast.
Nice. We were able to kill their Ramatra. That is a good play, and we are finally able to get.
Let's see,
Nice.
They're probably not going to swap. They have the ultimate.
Well, look at that. That was a complete essential team kill. That was a pretty good play from our side. Let's hope to God we can keep it.
I don't think we can keep it because we don't have our.
Supports back?
We don't have our beats for Lucio, and they have two good ults from the DPS, like the freeze and Reaper.
Fair. I guess they have all their ults pretty much.
Lots of space created from the. Okay, they nano on the save. Let's see if we can
Oh,
get
look at that. Nice play from Junknat. Yeah, let me do that. Oh, and Ryan gets killed. Look at that. Right before he got his ult off. We still are dominating it. Look at
Still
this.
have the point.
And Ramatra is somehow staying alive. Look at this.
Okay, nice
Oh,
stall.
he finally gets
I mean,
killed.
I don't think it was worth it to use the ult unless he's gonna swap.
Okay, so it looks like that we finally got pushed out of point.
Ooh, that's gonna be tough. They have 3 ults compared to our 1. Oh no, we have 2 with the Lucio being as well. Probably gonna watch for Reaper ults. We have 3 ults. We use both of our ults. They use Shadow. Now they're Reaper ults.
Look at that. Backseat swore up to the soldier.
That is.
Ooh, he got taken out by the Rhine. Or no, got taken out by their Reaper. Dang, look at that. That was actually kind of close. We were able to hold on for a second there, but... Oof.
Man, their team is really good at their rush comp.
Yeah.
I think our varsity team mainly specializes in dive. What they're doing, Tracer, Soldier gameplay.
They have this coming, so let's give it to them.
We'll see what happens.
Alright, looks like we have Lucas on Tracer.
There was
So
once
more or
was
less
the
the same as last time, but we have Max Rono going.
Looks like he swapped
Swap what?
He swapped to Cassidy.
Oh, you're right, he did. Okay, swap right back to Cassidy. Or right to Cassidy. And we got Maxron going Juno as opposed to
We
Kiriko.
have Sojourn from Lane.
Oh, Lane switched back to Sojourn. Usually, so he likes playing Sojourn because she's such a strong pick right now, but when he feels like he's either getting targeted or can't consistently do enough damage, he switches to Soldier. So I wonder if, oh, they're going Hog? No, okay, that's Monkey. Sorry, the silhouette threw me off.
They're keeping the Reaper and the grenade.
And looks like that we're getting taken out pretty quickly there. We got one of our supports, ooh, 2 of our defense or DPSs. And Ramatra jumped off to avoid being too staggered, so.
We should swap out Cass when we have a Monkey. Well, I don't know. They still have a Reaper, which is Cass is good against Reaper. This is
What's the speed boost? Oh, it's the Juno speed
It's the
boost.
Juno.
Okay. It's like, wait a minute, they're not playing Alicia.
okay,
That doesn't
oh,
make
that
sense.
on Baptiste. I've never seen it play Baptiste.
Interesting, they're all focused on that little rooftop.
they're either gonna have to like go for point or somehow push them off.
Alright, looks like did we kill Monkey? No, it's right there. Yeah. Oh man, Monkey's just getting healed right back up. Yeah, looks like we're really in the right time.
We killed the Reaper. And no Monkey, that's tough for them. And they got anti. They're running.
Oh, that's us. They're chasing us right now. Yeah. Looks like we got a ram ult.
They're still building.
Let's
still
see,
building
they used one ult to win that fight. We didn't use any ults.
Well, they still have 3 up. We only have the 2. I mean, granted, Cassie's ult's good if it gets off though, but
they have bubble, so it's not gonna. It's
Yeah.
gonna be tough for them. Unless you specifically wait that bubble or break bubble.
looks like we're actually gonna sneak on point, see if we can capture it. But I doubt they'll really let us. 1v1 the Reaper here.
He's got himself on point.
Yeah, and he just got killed.
That is so tough. They didn't get
No,
any percentage on that.
not
one.
at all. Brutal. Swashu Gray. So Swashu, funny enough, they were on our last stream. Like, I think one of them said, "Hey, wait a minute," and called it like some rules thing, and I was like, "How do you know that?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we're on Swashu. We're scouting you." I was like, "Oosh." And Nerd Rage gets triple. Almost got the quadruple. Yeah, that was a pretty good one. Big man Blastoise. Big man. Okay. Let's go Reaper up that one too. Get it Reaper. Nice.
Let's see if they make any changes.
We might sub out Zach, but well, that's the only option we have.
Muffin swapping PCs. He was the one carrying y'all.
That means swapping PCs. What? Why? Need to switch PC FPS down to 10? Hey, in case you didn't know, Muffin is switching PCs.
Yeah, you typing me.
Oh, good point. Why am I
You just tab.
weird?
Hey, yo, Crispy. I'm not even online anymore.
Alright, well, I guess we just waiting for the next match.
Mossy doesn't have a streamer.
No, they do.
Oh, why don't they get the full view?
I don't know. Well, maybe they did. Oh, let's see.
Because they haven't really said anything about it. It's up to them. Since they're the home team, they're the ones that kind of control that anyway.
Well, I mean, we're whitelisted, so all we have to do is notify them. And then whether or not it's the universal, I guess it is up to them, but
Yeah, I remember that. It's
rules wise, it should be they should give it to us with permission. I guess
Their
yeah.
PC is updating still. Sick.
Am I
Yeah,
actually
they're-
watching PC's updating still? Let's go do
So
Twitch.
They're going to be on hybrid escort on this one. So they get to pick hybrid or escort. Our team does, ECU.
Yeah, Social Esports is live, and they do have a streamer. Woof, that is a bit pixelated, but ours is probably too. And I'm pretty sure that
Max does get taken out.
That's
I
not
don't
our
think
map.
that's
That's
going to be a touch
their-
for Swastika, and
that's-
that is going to be the
That's
first
That's
map
blue. That's their
in
varsity
the
team.
favor of you.
we're going against their JV team.
Yep.
What? I'm not
Is
watching
there
this.
varsity team in the thing as well?
Yeah, well, in the
Oh,
NECC.
no, we're playing against Swastika right now?
Yeah, well, there it's
Yeah, we're
Swastika
gonna get Swastika
Gray. This is
blue.
Swastika Blue. We're watching in ECC Week 3.
That's crazy.
Man, this is depressing. I
Our
don't know.
varsity's getting beat up on by their JV.
Yeah, that's not fun. Why did they
Hey,
close Twitch?
Hey,
for
that's
that?
just one game. We can still win.
All right, what does ours look like? Oh, he didn't sign it. Oh my god, ECU Tiger Esports is live, and I get an ad? Come on!
You always get ads.
For this stupid Robert Pattinson movie where the trailer shows you everything. Is it too late to change my prediction? Big one Blastoise, big man Blastoise. Is Carter playing this semester? No, unfortunately, Carter ain't playing. I don't know why. He just isn't.
He didn't enroll in enough hours. So in order for you to play on the team,
You
you
have
have
to
to be full time, and he enrolled in I want to say 6 or 9 hours. Which
No,
is
he
not
got
full-time.
9.
Yeah,
So he was
went
one
9
class
hours, so
off.
he's one class off.
He told me at the beginning of the semester he was whitelisted for all 4 classes. So he got into 3, and I guess he couldn't get into the last one.
Bummer.
Otherwise,
Hate
he'd
to
be
see
playing.
it happen. Hate to see it happen. Swosu. Who said Swosu? Home and okay. Yeah. Whatever, dude.
Time him out.
Can I do that? I'm not even logged in. Hey, mods, ban this guy. I'm the mod. I don't know how to do that. I think Muffin's switching PCs.
Who was it? You say Muffin?
Who?
Oh.
I'm gonna ask him again.
Yeah.
Who was it switching PCs again? So they chose Escort. Maybe in Circuit Royale, so there's no Sigma coming in today.
Man, this is gonna be really funny in 3 minutes.
Do the same thing the next game when it's over.
Yeah. Oh man. They are
Almighty.
streaming the other team. Yo. Smitty the Sweat. Oh man.
New lineup, Reaper, Assault. So we're putting Zach on
Zach on
tank.
Interesting.
I see.
And then Lane on support.
What? No, they're not. It's damage, tank, support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're putting-
read that in order.
That's lane.
They're doing it.
Zach is on tank.
Oh, it's that one. Okay, I didn't see them. I didn't see him switch yet. I didn't read that. My bad.
It looks like Nat is going out.
All right, Zach on tank though. That is kind of an interesting mood. Nah, ours is good. We'll all be streaming JV.
Our JV
We
already
did
played.
already play.
We already,
Yeah,
we
we
already
already played.
streamed earlier.
We stomped hard on the enemy team. I didn't even know the name, to be honest. I
think
forgot.
it was like York something.
Oh,
York
yeah.
Panthers.
Yeah, the York Panthers.
Out of Nebraska. We won 3-0.
Nebraska.
And it wasn't close.
We won 3-0. Unfortunately, we did not have a streamer for the first match.
For the whole first game. For the
Yeah.
control map.
Yo, it's Caden, says Smitty to Sweat. Man, no, so I think it's funny because Nebraska was formed out of the Nebraska Act. Is there any history buffs? So I wish the Republicans would go back to being like their original name, which was the Anti-Nebraskans. That was the original name of the Republican Party, by the way. I just think that's funny. Well, because it was the Nebraska Act was like a way to separate slavery stuff, so it was fascinating
You a
stuff.
history major?
No,
I didn't
I just
know
took
this.
history last semester.
Oh, okay,
it's
that makes a
fresh
lot of
on the
sense now.
brain.
I
JD finished
remember we
a
talked
minute or
about
two ago.
that in like history class, but I took that freshman year.
No, for some reason I just kept kicking my history like down, so I ended up taking it my senior year. I'm just like, huh, this is funny.
Which, Jerry, if you want to watch the JV game, this video will still be up for 2 days. So you can go back and
You can watch the
rewatch it.
last the second
watch-
and the third match.
Yeah, you can watch the second half of the second game and the full third match.
The full third match I recommend because
We went crazy on
we
that
played dive instead of our normal comp, and we still obliterated them.
one. Yeah. I played Sombra. Alex Crispy right here, he played Doomfist.
Literally same situation as Carter. What does
Uh,
that mean?
He, I assume he doesn't have. He
He
enrolled last
didn't
minute.
enroll enough hours.
Well, yeah, but he's on our varsity or he's on our Rocket League team. So he's
He
def-
got whitelisted for all his classes, and somehow got all of them.
Huh. Wacky. Yo, they play the first round yet? Yeah, this is round 2.
Yeah, we ECU lost game 1.
Yeah. Home in OK is a woman, queen of OK Esports. Thank you for letting us know.
Queen of Oklahoma Esports. Home and okay? What is that?
Yeah, we lost round 1 blunder.
Home in
Unfortunate.
Oklahoma.
Who is that one calculum boy?
Calcium boy?
Well,
Calcium?
Well,
yeah.
it'd be the I next to the C. That's calculum.
Calcium boy.
That one calcium boy. Yeah, blunder. Yes. First map went to Swosu.
So it
yeah.
looks like the opposing team chose
Indeed, they are
Sigma,
stinky.
May Reaper,
True.
on a Juno. We have a Reaper, Sojourn, Hazard.
Okay, we're playing
Baptiste.
Hazard.
If you can handle both.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good
Zach
map
has
for
been
Hazard.
playing a lot of Hazard, so he's got a lot of time in on it.
And Muffin is going Sigma. I like to see a good Sigma play.
Yeah, Sigma versus Hazard.
Ooh, they're
is
keeping the
actually really bad
same.
for the
They're playing
for the
Sigma.
Hazard.
Yeah.
With that DPS lineup is crazy.
Yeah,
With what is it? Oh, it's
May Reaper.
huh.
They can't really take advantage of the poke tank.
yeah, they can't.
Reduce your expectations.
Yeah, they have all DPS with their book tank. Maybe they're
I
playing.
feel like they're definitely gonna swap.
Ooh,
Ooh, that was
just a
Good
Reaper.
rock. Okay, looks like we're kind of. That.
ooh, wall dog. That was a good wall.
That
right
was a
there.
good wall.
Let's play Zach. Let's see if actually going
Love
on
ECU.
the isolated person on the right. Ooh, anti.
Man, refresh. You say love ECU, but you're cheering for Swosu. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, that was a good use of the wall. Right there. Climbing over.
All right, yeah, let's
Still
see.
pushing the point because
Yeah.
they haven't fallen down. Juno's pretty low.
Let's see if he dies for it though. He does indeed die.
Ooh, brutal.
Tank is low. Hopefully,
Yeah, Reaper is close. Look at that. Oh, and will Bax be able to finish him? Yeah! Okay. look like the Reaper had a hard time managing the door there. Ooh, Reaper's ult is.
Almost killed the Baptiste. Okay, Reaper's going to the point. Marquand, go for the back cap. To get on point though.
Oh, and the Sigma ult goes off, getting looks like only Reaper, and he didn't take any damage from it.
Yeah, he raised.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. I have support all my teams.
Okay,
Yeah.
we use window.
Oh,
Healing him.
nice.
Doesn't use his selfie. Ooh, that was an insane rock from the enemy team right there.
Yeah, timed it perfectly when he landed.
Ooh, tough position.
we started both for DPS.
See, they should just get out with that.
Looks like they're going for the option to get out. Falling back, though our point was so close to getting that first checkpoint.
Which they used 3 of their ults, but Sigma's already 67 and back in place.
We have the ults. They're gonna have, or they have 2. They might get 3 in the time.
They have Juno's ult.
He's teleporting in the back. Grace the sleep. That was insane.
That was, I didn't even notice.
Ults him. Gets 2.
Oh, okay. Sigma stuns him, but yeah.
But we kill 4. Insane play. Great.
And the Sigma gets taken out.
We only needed 1 ult for that. Or we used 2. We used 2.
Look at that.
They didn't use any.
That was a great play from East Central. Really kind of outplaying the Sigma.
That was really good on
Yeah.
rate that sleep. That was huge.
He just completely read on already.
Usually as a Reaper, like, on it.
Yeah, it's also really scary for Reaper because he has to use his get out of jail ability as a way to dodge.
On my go. Is it okay? Is his name Raquan?
No, his name is Marquand.
Okay, yeah.
But someone in the Discord called him. I think they typed out the name Raquan instead of Marquand.
Oh, funny. Get the Juno ult out. No, that's their
Ooh,
Juno.
that is, oh, they used lamp.
That was the last save.
Couldn't save himself with the lamp though.
3 down.
Wow, that was a team wipe.
They did push it halfway through the second point.
This game looks like a knockoff Marvel Rivals. True.
First time chatter as well.
I can't type. I'm done.
Alright, that's it, chat. Get him.
Zach about to go crazy. I about to find out with his banana charm. Nope, that's a turtle. I don't know why I thought that was a banana. There.
Ooh,
Okay, it was kind of a good rock pushing the... I say that, but the Sigma is... Ooh. Did I miss? Did I miss that?
Their Reaper killed 3 of them.
Oh, their Reaper killed...
Our Reaper.
Wow, okay, I thought I missed our Reaper doing that. I'm like, no way. He just got off his thing.
So we have 2 support ults and our tank ults.
Hey,
They still have a defensive ult they could use.
Looks like we just used... Oh, we almost had a tank. Okay, there it is.
Oh, got walled off, unfortunately.
Good use of the May wall, though, from their side.
They're pretty good at using that May wall.
We got a minute and a half left to get it there. We're almost halfway, about a third, I guess. Looks like, ooh, okay, Sigma's really poking us down these hallways with his stupid bouncy balls. Explosive. Man. I guess that if your school isn't caring enough to stream your own games, you gotta invade ours. I see how it is. I'm just saying we're better. Okay, hope we can follow up on that.
He killed both supports right there. Okay, Tank killing himself.
Oh, he killed himself, but not before he got a kind of insane rock on Reaper here. Man, as someone who really mained Sigma when I actually did play, that was kind of impressive.
He's been hitting a lot insane.
Okay, Reaper looks like he killed himself. And the May also looked like he killed... Wow, they're really coming in one at a time. I don't think you should either. Yeah, Sigma up close and personal ain't exactly super effective. There we go. Okay, I wonder what their game plan was. I guess it was probably just to prevent us from getting there. Yeah.
They were just trying to...
I think they were just trying to get on point and survive until the next person got there. So they would have a chance of winning it.
Fair enough.
But they all died one by one.
Yeah. Not sure if it's maybe a testament to them being a little overconfident, or maybe that was just poor planning. I'm gonna keep...
Hog.
Ooh, Hog.
Hog is a good fit into Hazard.
Oh, he's trying. Oh, look at that. What did he kill? Oh, he killed the pig
Let's
pen.
see.
Okay.
Hog has his hook again. Let's see if he gets him. He's not getting him. Yes, he gets on him. That was a health pack.
Right.
We did not need to use that. I guess
Okay.
kills me. Kills a hog. We're gonna have to
Let's go.
Holy crap. This is kind of a marked improvement from last game. Look at this. We are so close to the finish line.
Ryan.
Going back to Ryan. Reaper's looking for a good time to ult. I think he might. One. I got a good kill, but really great zoning. Look at that. Whoa. That was insane. Okay. I guess Essential really knows how to lock in from that last game, because that last game really seemed... I thought that was going to set the pace, but no.
They locked in.
That was kind of crazy. All right.
Now let's see how them on defense.
Let's go Essential. What's up? It's Kiki. It's Kiki. It's not. It's Kiki. It's Kiki. All right. Yeah. Spooky.
Yeah, Spooky's... I'm pretty sure he's Quad's friend. I've played with him before on console.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
That's sick. Nah, it's actually kind of cool. We're getting a lot of chat participation this time around. I'm sorry about the 3-minute delay. I wish I could talk to you guys a bit more.
Stinking rules.
Stinking. If only the NECC wasn't trying to prevent cheating. God, I hate them. I'm kidding. The NECC is a very cool and baller organization. Okay, looks like Zach's going Orisa.
Baller is certainly a description.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have it any other way.
What I'm excited for is 66 Talk, the second part of next season.
Oh, is that coming the second part of next season? That's kind of impressive. I kind of assumed it was a little bit further down the line, but next...
Yeah,
I guess I'm not going to be here.
Yeah, second half of season 15.
Going back to 6v6. And if Cody was right, they're bringing in more CC again, so I guess we're just reversing everything from the Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 change.
So 5v5 will still be the main game thing, but there's going to be a test of they're doing 66 comp for the second half.
Okay, that's cool. Looks like they're going Monkey. And no other dive comps besides maybe Sojourn.
Yeah, Sojourn, Cassidy, Monkey. So the supports line up with it, but not necessarily the DPS.
Yeah. Man, Reaper's just really skulking here. Boom, 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 boom. Monkey gets 3 big booms. Alright, Lamp sees if you can save him. Look at that. Yeah, look at that. He's just absolutely denying them any coverage here. Monkey just ignores him, I guess. Oh, taken out by who? Oh, they're on it. Alright. Someone call? No. Winton.
How'd you enjoy my game?
I don't remember.
Was
Oh yeah, but I said I don't remember any Winston. Yeah.
I imagine my gameplay was probably a little boring for y'all because
Yeah, having a lot of those health packs.
it was either incredibly like go or
So we finish off the enemy Sojourn. Nice. Look at that. We're doing a pretty solid job on pushing them back. Oh, we're going for the health pack, but it's not there. Brutal. Let's go ECU. I'm gonna go broken. You don't win.
here to be able to try.
Alright, looks like they're gonna make it to the point. So we're retreating because we're down.
They got 4.5 minutes to push for the second one.
Alright, Monkey's coming in strong by himself. Straight for our supports. And getting out of there. Support on support action. Oh, I saw the shadow of the monkey. Scary. We got his dog. What do you mean?
I think they're dogs.
They're the Greys. I guess Greyhounds. Is that what this one's for?
What's this supposed to match?
Well, the name of the team is Gray.
Alright. Sojourn v Sojourn, we won. Looks like our Reaper's able to kill their...
I see. They're the mascot for Swasu is Bulldog, so that's why they said this.
Ah, fair enough. You and every other high school in the Oklahoma area.
Crazy.
I mean, we can't say much. There's a bunch of tigers everywhere.
Hey, come on. We can dish it, but we can't take
we
it.
give it to Southeast because nobody else is savage.
That is a cool mascot. No, you should give it to the University of Arkansas based in Monticello for being the Fighting Weevils.
Well, Southeastern used to be the Savages.
Nice.
They got sued.
Oh, that makes sense.
They also used to be a teacher.
Well, so did we. I think you mean normal school. But yeah, so did we.
Into a 4-year credit school.
Monkey scream. Monkey.
It's educational.
Well, East Central started as a normal school. Which that means
What
there's
is it? Are we not educational? What is that?
No, so we're a 4-year credit school. The teacher school does that. And you go there to be able to become a teacher.
Oh.
Alright, looks like the Havoc all went off, and it stunned 3 of them. That was actually pretty well placed. Monkey gets out, though. Alright, they're actually able to truck along pretty easy. So much of us are gotten killed.
We're doing a real good job at pushing this point. We were in overtime when we looked at the second point.
Yeah. Someone called? Rules are meant to be broken, all for the sake of fun. Alright, looks like Zach's doing the old Spasu strat, just trying to go in and get himself killed. Monkey is chasing him down, not forgiving him for his grievances.
So they get 3
Maybe
minutes.
they got 3 minutes for this last one.
appear. We have 3 ultimates. One says they have Nano right now, which Nano's pretty good ultimate. They might use Nano to save Lindy here. Well, you got Castle's low, but they have my Nano. Alright, they use Nano and Lindy.
Oh, Nano and the monkey's brutal. God, good Winston is so obnoxious. Holy crap. Look at that. He got gooped by this crystal guy.
You mean Hazard?
Yeah, Hazard.
Crystal
That's his
guy.
name.
You gotta touch, you gotta touch.
Yeah, we have to. Look at this. Wow. Okay, you know, as much as I was so confident in our abilities to win the first round, they have a whole, almost 2 whole minutes just to get moving, a couple meters. Yeah, they still could. They really could. I mean, it
Kind of
is.
low right now. We lost one. Everyone's kind of low. Okay, this could be a huge ultimate hazard.
Oh, nice
Kill
monkey
monkey.
kill. Putting the chimps down.
Good kill. Good kill on the judo.
Kill from Lucas. Ooh, insane. Insane hand.
You gotta touch.
Brutal. Dang, they actually beat us to it by over a minute.
Yeah, so it's a minute to 2 minutes and 17 seconds, so it's all a matter of if we can at least get the first. So we're gonna be attacking first.
Yeah. Why am I in this room? Okay, I'm gonna leave this room.
That is the last.
Oh, it's the last spawn point.
Yeah.
I guess. Isn't it supposed to be over there?
I was about to say,
It
I
hasn't
think this is where
reset
the
yet.
defenders start.
Oh, okay. I think we go all the way over there.
Ready or
Are you kidding me? Why does it make me go all the way over like this?
Alright, they're starting off with Junker Queen this time instead of Monkey.
Okay. I guess
We're starting off with Genji, which
going real defensive. Well, they are at least. I guess we haven't really chosen a lot of our comps yet. All we have so far is just chosen Genji and wow, I'm really blanking on names tonight. Holy crap, don't tell me. Kitsune. God, are
that's
you
not the
kidding
name,
me?
that's the
Are you
ult.
kidding me? Why can't I remember? This is the only hero from Overwatch 2 that I've ever played. Kiriko. God.
so they go Diva, which is actually pretty good against the Junker Queen.
All right, nice.
Would have been fine to get to what this do. It looks like they're all opting to just stay back on top of the building and far back, so they're going to go.
They want to play Guy here, but I don't think Zach knows how to play Doom or Monkey. So they want to leave him instead.
Yeah. Try that game line down just a little bit.
See, they're just trying to get as much free progress as they can get. No one's contesting yet.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of working. They're not going to contest
They haven't
the actual
contested
point.
at all yet.
Alright, that's their first time actually contesting the point, and Junker Queen falls over because of it.
I wonder if there was a strategy behind waiting
The
that
Junker
long.
Queen likely will probably swap here because it's really bad against the lineup that they have here.
Yeah.
And plus, the ult isn't as good for. Well, I mean, the ult is good for overtime,
But
but,
they have
Oh, straight to Zarya.
Alright, so they
Straight
swap to
to
Zarya.
see what you could
And
do here is
May.
go to spawn and swap as soon as he sees Zarya. Let's see if he does it.
Honestly, us getting this first
He does
point
it, he does.
free helps a lot.
He goes to swap immediately.
Yeah, good choice, Zach. Yeah, and Zarya just absolutely
Ramatra,
wrecks
indeed.
Diva.
I think Ramatra's a great pick because he's good. He's decent against like almost everyone. So let's see how this goes.
All right, we're.
Use his shield immediately.
Unfortunately, it's not like Sigma's. We can just.
Now it's
take
gonna
it
be
down.
rough for our
Okay.
Genji against Zarya though, and Zarya May. That's gonna be tough for Genji.
All right, the Juno's doing his best to heal.
Sojourn's low. She got bubbled.
Oh.
Genji's dead.
Zarya's
Oh, we lost
low.
Akira.
We got ENT'd.
Antied our tank. The tank is one. Ooh, that is tough.
Okay, tank does fall over, and so does our Reaper. Alright. Well, we pushed it pretty far, honestly, for only a minute, so that's huge. If we win one team fight, that might be enough.
I don't.
Maybe 2 team fights.
We have to win more than one. A team fight takes
Well,
generally.
a team fight will take it to where they're out of time. They'll be in overtime to push, and they'll be forced to stay on the payload.
But these guys also they kind of messed up by not playing closer.
Yeah,
Or
they gave us
contesting
the
the
first
point?
point for free, basically.
Yeah, I seriously wonder if there's a reason for that. Because it seems like they were doing that almost on purpose, just because like they were.
Well, I mean,
all-
like in general, it's good to play up there. At least for like higher levels, they like to control and then go down and then go up, like playing like Winston or Doom or something.
Alright, so it looks like they did go monkey again. Same DPS for Cassidy Sojourn instead of opening May. And we're opening with Hazard. Cassidy, Quan still hasn't picked.
But because they had a minute, I feel like we should have, or at least they should have played like closer up at the choke instead of on top of the gas station. I think we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna play on top of gas station.
Yeah, looks like it went straight to Reaper. Reaps.
It's almost like it's his name.
I know, right? Well, that's not fair. I mean, Junknat typically plays Lucio.
If she played DPS, she played.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but. I don't know. You see last game they put on Ramatra?
Oh, for on
Yeah.
Monday? Yeah.
Looks like we're also just kind of sticking up to this roof
we're
here.
likely probably just going to try to contest right here by this doorway, these two doorways. Doesn't look
This
like
monkey
they're
wants
pushing
to
it as
jump as
fast
soon as
either.
possible.
Okay, looks like
Quan looks like he's just waiting to die.
He's waiting for the monkey to die so he can go beat up the monkey. Let's
Okay, they're
see.
down
They're
one.
getting lots of.
They're-
Oh, that was a great dive.
Oh, but he missed the claw just barely.
No,
Maybe
I think
he
he
did.
got it.
He
but,
got
like,
it.
he was getting
Okay.
healed. Well, he missed the
Good,
claw
good,
now.
good.
Yeah.
Or missed
All right,
the
so that's
jump.
that's the one of the two fights that they need to win. They can win one more fight.
Okay, they just need to win one
this.
more, and then they win this this one.
All right, they're swapping to Sigma here.
We have to. It is kind of intense because
Sig
yeah.
it's gonna be hard for our team if they're gonna play complete poke, but poke is also slower
Yeah, it's gonna be really hard for them to push
because
that far with that little time.
they outrange us with the Sojourn. We have Cass. Both of
Cass
us have
Reaper.
Cass. Sojourn has Rail. Could get a headshot on someone. See if,
Just
let's see
waiting.
if. Okay, Reaper's gonna play more aggressive here because there's no longer a monkey to protect or the diver supports.
Yeah, well, it looked like he was.
Nina was really low.
looking
Our
for
tank-
a-
Our tank got anti, but he got cleansed.
Mm,
Okay, cool. They're down two. They're down two.
I'd be down 3.
Three.
Nice.
Okay, just two more, and they got 30 seconds.
We got 30 seconds.
This is
Those
kind of
people are going to
crazy.
be able to have, if they could stagger these people, that would be really great. They
Oh,
staggered Diana. Lost their
oh.
tank though.
Yeah, but look at that. They're all. You're right. They're staggered right now. They're coming in slowly. With 15 seconds on the clock, I don't see how they can win this, but I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, we have 3 of our ultimates. They have none.
Ooh, that was
I
a good.
honestly wouldn't be surprised to see a high noon as soon as their
Oh.
rockets pop.
Oh,
He was a half second off.
Okay, well, one of them's down. It's an overtime. Oh, no.
Oh, we're staggering here. Okay, he just wants. I think Hazard just wants to live as much as possible. He uses his ult.
That's huge.
Oh,
That's huge.
oh, that is
Nice.
huge.
Oh my god!
Yeah, let's go.
Yes! Yes!
Good job.
That was
Good-
an insane
Holy
raid. Zach there.
shnikes.
Zach
for the
locks
clutch.
in.
Let's see if they do anything. Let's see if they do anything. Sometimes they make poses. I don't know. I'm not gonna.
No, they didn't make any poses.
Ah, I dropped the cam.
Yeah, we lost
All
her.
right, you can see my feet. That's so cool. Thank you, Alex, for fixing that for me. All right, let's see. Oh, looks like that Saw gets play the game here. No, that was insane.
That's really focused on me.
That was
we
insane.
really wanna get
That
you on
was insane. Holy shit. No, shout out to Zach right there. Zach absolutely held that together to the very end, and holy crap.
Oh, that's awesome. So now it's tied 1-1, and we're going to be going to push, and that means we're also guaranteed to play a game of Flashpoint for Game 4.
Oh, we love Flashpoint.
Flashpoint is the best mode ever.
Absolutely, you heard it here, folks. Flashpoint is the best. She mostly plays Junkrat, though. To be fair, yeah, I know. I was kind of making a joke at just the fact that you know the way
She
that
hasn't really got to play Junkrat.
Well,
Yeah.
she's support because she's great on support, really.
Yeah.
And so I mean that's you know
That is true.
she's an absolute necessity. So yeah, it was more of a joke on the nature of her role as opposed to the names.
Like Zack Attack, he's not playing Zack very often. Like, come on.
He was playing defense there, you know.
Who will win Game 3 of the series? Predict. I can't freaking vote.
We're too broke to vote.
Biased. You can't vote. Oh man, I don't know about them. I'm kind of sweating after that one.
That was an insane clutch from Zach right there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I was like questioning, like, why did he use his ult right there when he was basically by himself?
Well, he used
And then-
ult. Yeah, and then with the wall there, that was just perfect time because his ult stuns not for very long, but it does.
It does
roots
stun,
him,
and they
it
were
roots
all
him.
off the point, and I think he realized that.
Oh.
Insane game sense from our Zach Attack right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Crazy putting him on tank, but dang, it really paid off. It really paid off. Because, yeah, no, as Zach was mentioning, he was, not Zach, as Caden was mentioning, Zach has been putting a lot of time into Havoc. So it is good to see him use these skills to the best of his ability because you're right, that ult
you
was
really
just
just can't get
so
the name.
crucial.
It's
Hazard. No! What's Havoc? What even is that? That's not even a character in this game.
I was gonna say that's a Marvel Rivals like hero.
I haven't even
No,
played
it's not.
Marvel Rivals.
There's not
Havoc.
Havoc? No.
It's a Marvel Snap. Okay, it might not be a Marvel Rivals.
It's
It
not
is
a
a Marvel.
Marvel,
character.
Snap, whatever. It's a gun in Apex.
I was saying it's a good Apex. I know that. Put the turbocharger on that.
Ooh, shreds. Man, I missed the day of the select fire receiver on the Prowler.
Yes, bro.
Oh, but
that was
no.
so good.
And I always thought to myself, man, it'll be crazy if they ever make the what's it called? The burst fire gun. What's it called again?
Which one?
The heavy ammo?
Burst fire?
Yeah, it just shoots in rounds of 3.
I don't remember that one.
Really?
I only remember the Spitfire. What was the heavy ammo one?
Yeah.
That was the one that shoots slow. I don't.
Well, it's the Spitfire, I think like the zip line or something like that. I know it's not that, but it's silly names. I only really picked up the R2 or R301.
Everyone picked up the R301, the R99.
Yeah.
What is it?
Well,
I can't remember the heavy ammo guns.
Yeah, well, because the heavy ammos were kind of flatline.
The flatline, yeah.
Flatline was good. No, R301.
Oh, I know what you're
was
talking about. I use it. It's not a what's it called? It wasn't an LMG. It was an assault rifle, the burst one.
Yeah. I always thought to myself man, if they give that the select fire receiver, make it gold or something, that would go so hard. Quan over there standing up. Yeah, no,
This is Overwatch. Let's go.
Yeah.
Everyone finally sees the clutch. Oh, well, I mean, we have a 3-minute delay, so.
Yeah, it's fair. We're talking about Apex. Oh, Apex, I miss when you were playable. I really do.
I think I tried playing the last semester. Me and Quan did.
Oh, yeah?
We ended up losing like every game. I think the closest we got was 4th place.
Who'd you main?
Watson.
Watson. Oh, I was actually a Watson main for quite a while.
Especially on that one map, what's it called? The World's Edge or something like that?
Yeah.
The buildings on that map, oh my, that was the dream for Watson.
No, I always thought because sometimes the circle or whatever would close in on like those hanging car things in World's Edge. You know what I'm talking about? Like they're on the cables.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, every time I would go, Watson's right there would go hard too. But you're right, some of the buildings were pretty good. Well, because I was a hardcore caustic main for the longest time, and then Watson came out. I'm like, oh, cool, another like defensive hero or whatever they're called. And I chose her, and I went with her for a while. And I found that I was like, man, I feel like I'm winning these fights more often. I didn't really know why. And then Caustic is like a 6'4" behemoth of a man, and Watson is a small French girl. Hitbox was insanely different. I'm
Yeah.
like, dang, what's going on? That makes sense. And then
I did play Seer when he was broken.
Oh, did you?
I did play Seer.
Yeah. Now he's freaking, or I shouldn't say now. I haven't played in a long time, but yeah, he was busted for a while, and then they nerfed him like once and unplayable. Absolutely unplayable. I played.
I only switched because I forgot what map it was, but it was that one map that doesn't have a whole lot of buildings. So I had to stop playing Watson because she was kind of useless with her abilities.
Yeah. No, after a while, I found just playing for fun. I like playing Octane a lot. And then I played a lot of what's it called? The one that has the ability to like see people. The hunter.
Bloodhound?
Yeah, Bloodhound. I played a lot of Bloodhound for a while. Okay, so did you ever play Titanfall 2?
I did not play Titanfall.
Nah, Titanfall 2, like a lot of the abilities from Apex, you can tell.
So it looks like we're keeping the same lineup, by the way.
Oh.
It's not coming in.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
So it looks like we banned
I am surprised,
Coliseum.
though.
They chose New Queen Street.
Well, it looks
Which
like they
is-
did a good job of scouting us because we do like to play dive into Coliseum or push maps.
Well, I know that Baxi especially likes playing like just Widow on Colosseo. He thinks he's got a good line of shots, which he does. It's as much as Widow kind of isn't that fun to watch purely because it's 9 misses, 1 body
She's
shot.
so good though.
Well, she's great because she makes the other team think about what they're doing, and it's better for zoning. It's not as flashy to watch. There's my winnings. I didn't get any winnings from the last prediction, so I can't vote on this one.
They lost.
Buddy, the system's rigged. I don't know what to tell you.
Crazy.
We're straight up stealing from you.
We are indeed stealing from you.
D2 colleges need it. We justify absolute thievery of your Twitch points. I am now crocheting my headphones.
Does he use bits or points?
I have no idea.
I think he used points, right? I think so.
All right, here we go, launching in.
What time is it? Is it almost 8? It's
It-
about 8 o'clock.
You
Looks
gotta
like
go?
You're losing one, yeah.
Oh
You
man.
get to sit in the chair now.
Why are you leaving?
Cause I gotta go home.
Why?
Cause I gotta.
You can just stay here, though.
Brother's gotta go home. It's Valentine's
You
Day.
go.
It's as if he might have someone to go back to.
You could get on the flying solo and play some Overwatch tonight.
I'm out here to see it coming.
Cobra HQ. New Queen Street. I haven't seen this map played in freaking ages. Holy crap! I'm gonna be so honest. I didn't even know.
I think we played New Queen Street last week. That y'all
Wait.
y'all didn't get to stream us
No.
last week.
I didn't even know there was a push map.
Yep.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I've seen this be played. Never mind. Right here. I know. Why is there so many pushes?
There's 4.
Right.
Ruisapi, Colosseo,
No, not maps. These things.
1 for each side.
I thought I saw some over here.
There's 1 robot. So that's where it locks in for.
No. I saw another one. I saw another push thing. I'm just tripping, I guess. Freaking
Just tripping.
tweaking.
All right,
over
so it
here.
looks like both sides are going Hazard. Both sides have Sojourn. Both sides have a Juno. Differences are May Reaper and Ana Kiriko.
All right.
Looks like this Nora person, they played Ana like the entire time. They haven't swapped at all. Siegser has also only played Sojourn seemingly.
There's some hazard on hazard action, and our hazard
All right,
wins.
Hazard wins the one-on-one.
I get slept though. I'm gonna be so honest, not to question Zach's ability, but the other tank really kind of has been pulling, really the weight of the team. I kind of expect him to win that team fight, or that one-on-one at least. Ooh, honorary coach Alex on stream. Yeah, pretty much. He's gone now, so you missed him, but whatever.
Yeah, now you just get me. That's all you get.
Yeah.
Sorry. Alright, Sojourn's got a railgun charged up. Alright, so we got bit of damage. Yeah, fall back on that. Our tank is really, really low. He's got to fall back. Our Reaper also has to use his Ray.
Yeah.
We did push up a little bit. We almost got force one. All that made was 1. They got healed all the way back up. They used our Nano. Their tank is dead though, so we got a 5v4. They could push up for the forward spawn. That'd be huge.
And look at that.
And we got the forward spawn. Let's go.
Boom. Surprising early
Their
lead
May
from
was
East
almost
Central here.
dead. They can use their ice block. Next week you're gonna get to not only like stream regular Overwatch, we're gonna have perks starting next week as well. and that's going to really change the game. So they got a Nano Hazard. We used our ultimate. Our Reaper went down. Our Kiriko's down.
Man, that Ana really likes nanoing the tanks.
Yeah, she doesn't really nano either Sojourn. Well, Mei isn't really a good nano.
Yeah.
Sojourn is kind of okay, so the tank makes kind of the most sense.
Yeah.
Their tank goes down.
Wait, when...
Our tank is going to die.
Yeah, he's... It was...
He jumped in when he shouldn't have. He should have just fell back.
It looks like he almost was able to escape too. But like, she nanoed Winston too last time, which I guess it's good to keep him alive for longer, which I guess that's why he's annoying.
So a nano Winston with Primal is actually really devastating. They also like they just now gave him a buff to both his damage and to his ammo. So nano kind of pays off a little bit more than they used to, but not as much.
So as Hazard is the new character, as a lot of characters are kind of strong on launch, how do you think Hazard's balanced?
Well, they've already balanced him a couple of times. The thing that they have changed they changed his block. It's where it did a little bit less damage,
Okay.
less spread.
Okay,
And
look at
then, okay, that was good kills from Reaper. They did get forward spawn, so they're gonna have to push it past the halfway point in order for them to lose forward spawn.
Look at that.
Maybe they can make it to where the tank doesn't get forward spawn and they get really staggered, but I don't think they'll have enough time to be able to push that far.
Imaginary push bot.
All right, they swapped to Winston. But yeah, have you done any reading on the new stuff that we're gonna have starting next week?
So Cody was telling me about some of the perks they're adding, and it looks like it can be kind of crazy. Now, he only gave me some examples. I haven't looked over a full roster.
Okay.
But like, he gave me an example of May's ice block now freezing nearby opponents.
Yeah, that's
Gave-
one of her major.
Yeah, gave an example of Tracer when she does rewind actually heals for twice as much into overhealing.
Yep.
And was that a team wipe? No, not
We
entirely.
lost 2.
Well, every time I'd look at somebody, it was not looking in the right spot. And that was pretty much the only ones he'd really given me. Hello.
Yeah, so Bastion for both of his major perks, they're basically like old Overwatch 1 features. So he could either choose the self heal by pressing E,
Oh, okay.
or he can choose that whenever he goes into assault configuration, instead of like firing the artillery shells, he fires like the old like movable tank form of like explosive rounds. That's a nano tank. He's really low though. Okay, he fell back. Our Reaper still hasn't popped his ultimate. He's had it for a long time.
I
He hasn't
feel
really
like,
had a point to be able to do it because both of
Yeah.
the supports kind of fall down a lot.
like I said, I feel like that he's just really waiting for the right time. It's just
It's good wall, create more cover.
both supports are just really hammering into him. Need to move back at full HP to see if we can fight the monkey off. Man, look at this. They're actually pretty close to the end here. I mean, as much as it doesn't really feel like they have that much of a
They got
lead,
anteed
they
again.
do.
Yeah, they have a really large lead right now. Our Sojourn's gonna get soloed off of this.
Yeah.
Should survive. As long as he doesn't get damaged by anybody else. Okay.
Okay, that was
area
a good,
denial.
good little grab bomb thingy that she pulls.
May goes down, so they're down 4, so it's only the Sojourn left. They can stagger her if they can reach her in time.
Alright,
Okay,
looks
she
like-
uses her getaway ability. Okay, yeah, she makes it all the way back.
looks like
So we
I'm-
have Railgun. Looks like we did pop Death Blossom. We're pretty close to Zach's ultimate, and they have Railgun themselves. So we'll see which of the Railguns end up being the better one. Oh, takes out the Juno and takes out the Sojourn. Let's go. It's huge.
Nice.
Alright, and we take away forward spawn from them, so they'll be spawning from all the way in the back. Oh, tank's low. Our tank got slept. Okay. Their May goes down. Their tank should be going down. He's kind of
He
staggered
should
himself.
be
He
going
should
down.
have just let himself die.
Yeah.
Oh, and that ultimate's going to be huge. Okay.
That's
okay,
insane!
Good job. Good play.
Holy crap! Great combo play from the Hazard placing his ult and then Sojourn just cleaning up. Holy crap!
Alright, we still have our Sojourn ult. We're really close to getting Kitsune. They have 3 ultimates. They're about to have 4, so they might actually have a really big counter push here. We got 2 people that got antied. Our tank is still antied. Okay, he's not anymore. All right, our Sojourn popped her railgun. They used their nano. Their Sojourn's about to go down. They're down Sojourn. They're down Juno. We're down both of our supports. Their Ana's really low. Their Ana was 1. Okay, their Ana ends up surviving because their tank is up front. Our tank is really low though. Okay, he uses Wraith, gets away. He gets healed back up.
Okay, so it looks like you're right. They're going for a decent counter push now. It wasn't decisive,
And
but
they only used 2 of their ults too. And we ended up using 1, so we lost that fight and lost like ultimate economy. We're gonna have 2 ultimates here. Oh, we used Kitsune as well. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And our Kiriko just went down. Our Reaper is really low. He's having a hard time building his ultimate. It looks like he goes down.
Well, I feel like he's really just having a hard time getting close to anybody because we're shredding through their defenses or their supports, and Winston is just on the fly. He is a hard monkey to kill.
Well, the kudos definitely goes to his Ana. His Ana's definitely pumping him forward.
Oh yeah, no.
Ana and Juno. He's got two healers that can heal him at a distance. Our tank is really low. He gets cleansed. He got antied though.
Brutal.
They popped 2 ultimates there. They popped both Sojourn and Winston's. They got a touch, and we lose this one.
Brutal. That was
now 2-1 to Swasu.
That was kind of close. To be honest, I kind of thought that we'd be able to pull that off, but looks like we weren't. Play of the game goes to the enemy Sojourn.
I think this is their second play of the game in a row.
And that was a triple kill. Yeah, I guess so. I kind of do think that the hazard ult into Sojourn cleaning up, I thought that was kind of a better play. Because it was the same triple kill, but I guess that was more of a assist thing than what that was. But
yeah,
it's whatever. Whatever the system deems correct. All right, now we're on to Flashpoint.
Yeah, we're on the Flashpoint. Arguably, our team should be better on that because Dive is usually pretty good on Flashpoint. But so is Brawl, and this opposing team, they don't really seem to be running Brawl. They seem to mainly be running like poke comps.
Well, they seem to be kind of all over the place in terms of
like their tank. Their tank is the only one that's like changing consistently. Yeah. The rest of our lineup seems to want to stay the same lineup.
We got a lot of ads on Snapchat recently.
Not a fan.
Neither am I. Alrighty, well, hey, that's me. Did anyone say which Pokemon they want me to play?
How does Pokemon Blue only have a rating of 79%? That's crazy.
Well, so they both have the same exact rating, but look at that. Red has like 3,000, while Blue only has 800. And more comments and everything. And Pokemon Snap's here. I don't know what Pokemon Snap is, but it's here.
Apparently it came out in 1999.
Oh, yeah.
N64. Yeah, I have both of these as well, but I have them on I have a virtual Game Boy downloaded on my laptop and have their ROM hacks.
Am I gonna play Doom on here? That's cool. Wait a minute. I don't like Doom. I think I've played it before. It's kind of a.
All right, so let's see. So it looks like our team is keeping the same lineup. Looks like they're keeping Junknet on the side again.
Dang.
And looks like we picked New Junk City, which is a good hazard map. I'm gonna guess that Zach probably stays on hazard. We'll see. We'll see how it looks.
Also, what is this? Where's Bomberman? I'm sorry. You're so right. Yeah. Ah. I'm a coward and a fool.
Crazy.
No! Why'd you do that? Okay. Oh, freaked me out.
You almost died there, bud.
Yeah. Don't you guys like...
You did die.
Yeah, okay, sometimes I like to change up the little grooves, and I don't like it. Can't predict what these guys do. It's stupid. Whole game's rigged.
Nice, Bob.
Freaking... Okay. The feds are out to get me. They're rigging this game just so I'll lose and be angry. Okay, yeah, see, that was the feds.
I don't know. I feel like...
Freaking glowies on my freaking computer. Getting spooked. I know it. There's the door. Not what I'm looking for. Take that, gopher.
You almost died. I don't know about that, Chief. That may not have been the placement.
Yeah, Emerald. I can't play Emerald. I showed you I couldn't play Emerald. I like red or blue. Choose red or blue.
You can't play Emerald?
No.
It's called download virtual Game Boy.
Okay, I'm going to the extent of retrogames.cz. That's it.
You don't want to download a virtual Game Boy?
Okay. Sometime later I'll do some freaking ROM hack, whatever.
Alright, looks like we're about to... Oh, looks like... So Quan's going to tank this time. Zach's going to support.
Yeah, whatever.
And...
I'm trying to win Bomberman here.
Alright, our game is starting.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, yeah, that's actually important.
So it looks like Kylie is still sitting out. Zach went to support. Got Quan on tank,
Bonk.
Reaper Eat. Got Lane on DPS this time.
Bonk. Why did it slow down before it hit the wall? I want to just full on hit the wall. Old bomb flats. See, it's telling me to play Bomberman. I'm kidding. I just heard Luke say, "We're getting cooked,
Yeah,
baby."
Nat is still not playing in this one, it appears. Alright, we're starting off with Junker Queen.
Throwing.
Oh, just kidding. It looks like we have a Roadhog, Kiriko, Anna, Cassidy, and the opposing team has Reinhardt,
No.
Sojourn May,
All right.
Juno.
We
So-
switched to a more reasonable tank, Junker Queen. I yearn for the day of a Roadhog meta.
We got a Soldier 76. Got honorary Carter on the team.
Yeah. Oh. Barely missed getting that hit with the Reinhardt flame.
Didn't get anybody with that knife. Did get somebody on the way back because that helps a little bit of ult charge.
Wow, the Reinhardt is ooh, got
good
stuck
area
though.
denial.
Oh, we
And
get
he's
wall
walled.
off.
Okay, that's huge
Woo!
cleanse. Okay,
Almost took out the
uses
May.
Ice Block. Or May does. Ryan.
Brutal.
That was rough. Tough fight.
They're really good at just focusing every. Team kills. What that's missing. Ugh. I agree. Put them in the ground. as good as Zach was on Hazard, it's a good comfort pick with him and Ana. Looks like we are able to secure point. Let's see if we can hold it.
One. Our tank did get antsy. Okay, he's got cleanse and he's good. Or, we lost a soldier.
Why do you keep dying? Because I'm bad at the game. You gonna make me say it? You gonna make me say it in public? I'm like on the verge of tears. Federal trying to embarrass the world's best Bomberman player. Exactly. And by the feds, I mean the Federal Reserve. They saw my plans to get rid of taxation, and they said, we can't have that.
Oh, so our Soldiers 86 swapped a Bastion here. For those that don't know, I'm kind of a really big Bastion fan. One of my top 5 most played characters.
I can never get queued in DPS, so I always just went to flex, and so I play a lot of support.
See, whenever I queue flex, I get a lot of tank.
Well, I used to get a lot of tank in Titanfall 1, Overwatch 1, but Overwatch 2, only 1 tank slot. Almost never.
Oh, huge! Big slam!
That was kind of brutal there.
Yeah, that was a huge
Team kill.
Big slam for the kill. Woo. And that only took 1 ultimate, and we're down on the ult economy right now.
Okay, let's not watch Sheeber over here. I don't care about you. Sheebser? Cheapser? Cheese.
Nano. Let's see if we can. Okay, tank goes down.
Oh,
huge.
Nice. Barely evades
the. That Sojourn was low. Okay, there is no ice block. He should be just trying to take out this May here. Oh, the wall saves the May. Okay, good.
Only for a short amount of time.
All right, so that took 2 of our ultimates. 3, because it looks like Sojourn used theirs pretty early, but they got a lot of their ult charge back already. Goodness gracious. And they used 2 of theirs. So they have their Sojourn and their Nano. They have Nano again. Or no, they haven't used their Nano yet.
I'm like 80% sure there's much more than a 3-minute delay. Well, so when we say something, it's gonna take 3 minutes for you to say something back, and then we see it, we say something again, it's another 3 minutes. So it's gonna appear like there's a 6-minute delay. But rest assured, there's only 3. Oh man, we're getting shredded here.
Okay, Maze goes down, so we're down 2. They're up.
Well, they were down their tank for a second, but look at that.
Oh, the anti's huge.
Oof, that was huge. All right, looks like Assault's back on point. Let's see if he can stay there. No. He's gonna get taken out.
Oh, that was a huge real gunshot.
Kind of was, yeah.
Oh, huge kill.
Got rid of their Sojourn.
But we lost a point. Okay, so we're down 2-0. If they can't put it together for this last one, then we will be down. All comes down to this one point for ECU's life in this match to stay alive. And I'm saying this at 8:18. So that'll tell you if there's a 3-minute delay or not.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a good point. Time is 8:18. I could also just pull up the settings. Because it's 180 seconds. I had to set that myself. Actually, this isn't, since this isn't my streaming profile, I actually don't know what Cody has it set to, so you know what? I might check that after there's some downtime.
Big slam.
Big slam.
Anti though, tank goes down. Alright, we do have assault configuration. We have Katsune. We have everything except for our Ramontra's ultimate. Annihilation.
Yeah.
Looks like they need one good fight. Let's see if they can do something here with this fight.
Alright, looks like that lane has his ult up.
Oh, we're down 2. We're down 3. Alright, so they popped 2 of their ultimates to win that fight. They popped configuration, not doing anything with it.
Looks like Bax is kind of one of the only people still on objective here, and he's about to get shredded to
Yeah, and he got staggered pretty hard.
Kingdom Come. Good lord.
99%, 100, and that's it. The match goes to Swasu. They win 3-1.
Get out of here, Bomberman.
GG, Swasu, GG.
Let's see if I can find these settings. Alright, let's see this play of the game real quick. Yeah, I could have called that if I had thought about it.
Zach just runs off the map because that's a smart thing to do there.
Yeah, that was kind of a brutal play. But if you look over here, 180 seconds. That equals 3 minutes, I think. Okay.
Well, thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we have for today. And streaming will be back for at least on Monday for whenever.
Yeah,
we play in the GAC again.
Yeah, so if we're going for the upcoming streaming schedules, tomorrow will be League of Legends. I don't know when. It's kind of in the middle of the day. And I also don't stream it. So if you are a League of Legends fan, you probably know better than I will. Monday, we have the GAC playing for both JV and Varsity. And I believe we have a Fortnite game playing at the same time. Let me see. Yeah, we have actually Street Fighter 6 playing instead of Fortnite. Tuesdays, Rocket League, League of Legends, Fortnite, and Street Fighter 6 again. Wednesday is Super Smash Brothers, and I'm not super certain we're gonna keep what the strategy is for streaming that one. So we may or not. I don't know. I'll be informed. Thursday is Rocket League, Fortnite, Guilty Gear, and I believe League of Legends again. Nope, that is just Tuesday, and then Friday again is right here. So yeah. I'd recommend for fun games to watch. Rocket League has been kind of a blast. First game we got wrecked, but I feel pretty confident for the rest of the season. It will be pretty cool to if you guys like any fighting games. Street Fighter is pretty fun to watch. Guilty Gear is interesting. How does that make sense? You can't see the stream chats right away. I am not seeing you, but you not seeing us is odd. Oh, that's a good point. Well, no, think about it.
So we see. So it's 8:21 now. So we're seeing it. So the 3-minute delay, so we said that at 8:18, so it's only 3 minutes. So we see you right now at 8:21.
Well, no, so
but you won't hear us again until 8:24.
So we see you instantly. It's just you're responding to us in the future in a weird way, or in the past. And so we say something, 3 minutes pass, you see it, you say something, we see that immediately, and then we say something, and another 3 minutes pass till you hear it. So it feels like 6 minutes, but it is 3 minute delay. I know that it kind of is a little frustrating. It's frustrating for me too, but it's we have to comply with ECAC rules, and in a couple minutes you'll probably see me pull up the proof. It's 108 seconds stream delay, and all we really can do about it. But yeah, all right. If you like this, I again recommend checking into Rocket League and Street Fighter. Fortnite's cool too, I guess. But all right. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Catch you on the flip side.